could you please, for the jury, describe George Floyd's relationship with his mother?
Oh, it was one of a kind. George, he would always be up on our mom. He was a big mama's boy. I cry a lot, but George, he loved his mom. He will always just be up on her. And, you know, every mother loves all of her kids, but it was so unique how they were with each other. He would just lay up on her in the fetus position like he was still in a womb. I would see him every day, and I'd say, period. I'd say period because we called him Perry instead of George. And he would always say, hold on, let me kiss mama before I come over there. And being around him, he showed us like how to treat our mom and how to respect our mom. He loved her so dearly. And when George, he had found out that my mom was passing because she had to stay with us for hospice. And he was talking to her over the phone, but she perished before he even came down here. So that right there, it hurt him a lot. And when we went to the funeral, it's just, George just sat there at the casket over and over again. He would just say, Mama, Mama, over and over again. And I didn't know what to tell him because I was in pain too. We all were hurting. And he was just kissing her and just kissing her. He didn't want to leave the casket. And everybody was like, come on, it's gonna be okay. But it was just difficult because I don't know who can take that when you watch your mother, somebody who loved and cherished you and nourished you for your entire life, and then they have to leave you. We all have to go through it, but it's difficult. And George, he was just in pain the entire time.
So this part of the prosecution's case obviously has nothing to do with the cause of death or the manner of death or any of that. But it is important, it's significant, and it's something that's not going to leave those jurors anytime soon, I don't think. Let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Julia Janae, who joins us live from Minneapolis tonight. Julia, give us the background, because this is very unique. This doesn't happen in all trials. And oftentimes in some trials, we don't really get to know the victim at all. But this type of testimony in Minnesota gives prosecutors an opportunity to humanize and bring that victim back to life so the jury understands that this is a real person.
We often see it in sentencing, right? We see a victim impact statement, but it's after the guilt phase is over. But here in Minnesota, they have what's called spark of life testimony, where you are allowed to bring in witnesses who can talk about what the victim in the case meant to their family, to the community, what this loss of life means. And it actually hails back to a case here from 1968, which involved a police-involved death, but it was the police officer who died in that case. And the prosecution was able to successfully convince the judge in that case that you need to show more than just the person's body, their muscles and blood and tissue. You need to show that they were a human person. So this testimony today from Philonise Floyd, coming essentially the day after this jury saw those autopsy photos of George Floyd on Friday, really poignant. This jury was reacting to what was coming off the witness stand.
And I know there's a lot of criminal defense attorneys who may not agree that this is a fair thing to do, this is the right thing to do. But for me, as a former prosecutor, that's a part of the cases sometimes, and a lot of times, right here, cases we cover on Court TV, you don't get to hear anything about the victim and the trial. I mean, the defendant's on trial, but it's about the victim. I mean, if there is no victim, there is no trial. And to me, I love what Minnesota has done here. And this is our first trial that we've covered in Minnesota, so this is all new. Let's take a listen to a little bit more of the testimony of George Floyd's brother.
Do you recognize the picture in 284?
Yes, sir.
Is that a picture of your mother and George when he was younger?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to offer Exhibit 284.
Any objection? 284 is received.
Permission to publish. Sir, would you please describe this photo and what you know about it?
That's my mother. She's no longer with us right now, but that's my oldest brother, George. I miss both of them. I was married. In May 24th, I got married. And my brother was killed May 25th. And my mom died on May 30th. So it's like a bittersweet month because I'm supposed to be happy when that month comes.
Emotional testimony. And we remember, Julia, this entire case started with a lot of emotion, and it seems prosecutors on what we believe is the last day of their case, wrapping it up that way as well.
We do, and this jury, just to talk about how they were viewing this witness, juror number, she's seated as juror number 1. She's the closest to the witness stand. She has a child, at least one. She's a healthcare executive. And when Philonise Floyd was talking about the bond that Floyd shared with his mother, she seemed to appear visibly emotional hearing that. Next to her is juror number 2, the nurse that we've talked about several times when it comes to the medical testimony, but she too was smiling along with some of those heartfelt childhood memories that Philonise Floyd was testifying about, the banana and mayonnaise sandwich that Floyd would make for his siblings, and also the story about him measuring himself in the house, the marks that he made on the wall because he was always growing. And even the banker and youth coach who sits on the back row, who sometimes I see, or I've seen when I've been in the courtroom, that he was disengaged. He seemed very engaged in this testimony, even taking some notes when the testimony about George Floyd's basketball background and high school time was coming out in that testimony. So this jury clearly riveted by this emotional testimony towards the end of the prosecution's case.
Let's bring in our special guests into the conversation. Joining us tonight from Louisville, Kentucky, the attorney who represents the family of Breonna Taylor, Lanita Baker, is with us. And in Phoenix, Arizona, the attorney for Jodi Arias, former attorney for Jodi Arias. But trust me, folks, he does not like her either. Kirk Nurmi is back with us as well. Great to have you both here. Lanita, I think I'd like to see this in every courtroom. I know many criminal defense attorneys wouldn't want to see it, but to me, it's a significant part. You know, too often, the victim in a trial gets lost. We don't even know their name sometimes by the end of the case. People are like, well, who died? I mean, I've covered trials where we don't even see a picture of the victim.
That's so true. And as a former prosecutor, that's something that I would definitely love to have spark of life testimony from a witness. Many times you get to the defense side and they get to put on character witnesses. But you're absolutely correct, Benny. You never get to hear much about the victim who's no longer there.
Yeah, Kirk, do you agree that a trial is about a defendant, but it's also about the victim?
Well, to some extent, yes, and I agree. I understand why the spark of life testimony is something we see. We want to feel that human connection. I get it. I understand it, and I'm sympathetic to it. But also, we have to look at it from a Sixth Amendment standpoint. Does that do carnage to someone's right to a fair trial if the assessment of guilt or innocence is made on the emotion of how nice a person the victim was? That really doesn't have anything to do with guilt or innocence.
I agree. It doesn't have to do with the elements of the crime. However, one of the elements is that a life has been lost. And, you know, if you don't have testimony like this, way too often, Kirk, it's as if this life never really existed.
Well, I would disagree with that because we know it did. We know we see the autopsy photos. We know the crime. We know what happened. So I don't think that's it. I think this goes into the emotional hook, an emotional hook to jurors. And, you know, jurors are instructed that they're supposed to make their decision based on the facts and the evidence. And spark of life testimony is not that. I get it from a human perspective, but as a constitutional scholar, if you will, I believe that it is inappropriate.
I get it. And I told everybody the criminal defense attorneys will not agree with me. Let's take a listen a little bit more of George Floyd's brother here, talking about something that they like to do together and one of George Floyd's favorite recreational pastimes.
When he would talk about playing basketball, would he use any particular term or phrase?
Oh, he said, "Hey man, let's go hooping," and we will always say, "Come on, let's go." We always went hooping, and you have to hoop every day, because if you don't go and shoot a whole bunch of shots, like 50 to 100 shots a day, my brother will always say you'll never be able to compete. Hooping was big because Magic, you had to watch the stars. We watched Michael, we watched Magic, we watched everybody hoop every day.
This was an interesting part of the testimony, Julie Janae, and I'm wondering if it's connected to some other references to hooping. And I just want to play part of the body cam from Officer Lane and King's body cam, where George Floyd that day talked about hooping.
Are you on something right now?
No, nothing.
Because you acting real erratic.
Man, I'm scared, man.
Let's go.
God,
you got
man.
foam around your mouth too?
Yes. Yes, I was just hooping earlier.
All right. He said he was just hooping earlier. And, okay, all right, if he's hooping and his brother says hooping is basketball, but Julia, it seems to me that the defense has a different take on this term hooping. Have they given any indication to this jury about where they're going to go with this term hooping?
They've made mention of it in some cross-examination questions, that it may have a reference to some sort of drug activity that most of these witnesses have said they don't know anything about, but that may be along the lines of where they're going with it. One of the reasons likely that the state today wanting to get ahead of that and making sure it's clear this is what George Floyd would mean when he said hooping. And I also think simultaneously they got out George Floyd's health status from his brother's standpoint, that he was always working out and keeping himself in shape. And if he was just hooping earlier, if he was just playing basketball, then that could tell you a lot about the health condition that he was in before he encountered Derek Chauvin.
All right, you mentioned that cross-examination. Let's take a listen to one instance of that where he's cross-examining the forensic toxicologist, and that term hooping comes up.
And so you understand that as those pills were tested, those pills were at least appeared to be partially ingested or partially dissolved.
Okay.
And so there would be evidence of an acute ingestion of fentanyl and or methamphetamine at the time Mr. Floyd was in the backseat of the squad car.
Objection, Your Honor. Outside the scope calls for speculation.
Let's do one objection. Which one would you like?
Speculation, Mr. Mayor.
Sustained.
Are you familiar with the term hooping?
Objection, outside the scope.
You can answer it if you know.
I don't.
All right, Lenita Baker, he's asking the toxicologist. It seems to me the defense must have some expert that's going to talk about hooping. From my quick research on all of this, it's another way perhaps to ingest drugs. What are your thoughts about the road that the defense may be going down here with this hooping?
I think the defense is stretching when he's going down this road with hooping. I think the general public, the jurors who are a part of this trial, I think when I heard hooping, I think of playing basketball, as Philonise Floyd testified to today. I've never heard of hooping in a general sense, even as a former prosecutor. Of many years, I've never used the term hooping. So it's something new to me. And this expert better be a good one if he's going to try to convince the jury that George Floyd was admitting to the way he was ingesting drugs earlier in the way that he used hooping.
Kirk Nurmi, you've tried a few cases in your career. Have you ever come across the term hooping outside of the world of basketball?
That would be a new one on me, and I agree that this is a stretch. If the defense is going to try to make much ado about this, they need to stick to the facts, the science, and their experts. For the experts to talk about this red herring issue, I think would be a bad strategy.
All right. And again, we'll keep our eyes open during the defense case and our ears open to see if this does, in fact, come up, because Eric Nelson has asked some questions that seem to be related to all of this, and we'll see where it goes. Julie Janae, I know, is going to join us at the top of the hour with her big three takeaways from court, also letting us know what's happening outside of the courtroom. So we'll see her. Kirk and Lenita will stay with us. We've got some more big moments straight ahead.